And I always like to, just to summarize what I'm talking about, I always have a separate where I talk about how to build a stable financial strategy. And you can see at the bottom we have one, two, three, four. But today it's all about pension and property ownership. And for me, that's part of the long term strategy. We can talk about the midterm and the short term, but today, as this is the topic, we are all focused on the long term strategy. And to secure our future, to not worry about all those things that I said that might scare us, we need to understand the following. The long term strategy or the long term phase for me is the harvesting phase. That's where I want to relax, chill, and enjoy my life and enjoy my grandchildren. Or by God's grace, even my great grandchildren. And there are three things that you need to consider if you want to harvest old age. And that's the ideal situation. Even if you have only 2 out of 3, you are blessed. Number one is to have as much capital available as possible at retirement. Number two is to have a monthly income source. It can be the government pension, company based pension, private pension, or ideally all three. Because regardless of how much capital you have, you need some money to always add on top of it. And the final one is to have a fully paid, and I need to emphasize, a pension, it needs to be fully paid off property, even if it's an apartment. Because if it's paid off, you do not need to pay rent. You might need to pay maybe electricity things to still keep it going, but you do not need to pay rent. And if I have €1,000, let's say €1,500 pension, and I need to use that €1,500 to also pay rent, I will struggle. But if I have a fully paid off apartment or house, 1,500 at least, I'll be able to survive better. And that's something we really, really, really need at the back of our mind. And yeah, this is actually a repetition. But based on this, this should not be here, so I'll just skip it. Any questions at this point, please? Let's get into the Q&A section a little bit, please. If there are any questions, because we already reached exactly 1 hour.
Yes, thank you so much for this in-depth information. I believe this is the QR code if you want to contact Mr. Godfred Schutz for questions on financial advisory or investment plan. I just have a few questions.
Let me just give you a short insight of this. This is actually more like one thing a lot of people ask is how and when and whatnot. The whole point is, I said, I cannot promise anyone anything. And the main thing we need to consider is we need to understand what people do. If you look at my website and you go on it, you're probably going to see only business consultation because that's my specialty. But my team does also other elements. But one thing you need to understand is the main important thing is to really just book a discovery call. Find out your situation. Some people might plan to go back to Africa or wherever they are from. And then you just need to know insights. And one question that a lot of people ask is normally, and that's why I have this slide now thinking of it, is, hey, Godfred, it sounds so good, it sounds so smart, but honestly speaking, are we able to pay you for the service that you're going to provide? The answer is you don't need to pay me for the service that we provide. Because the premium partners you see over here, they are the ones who are going to pay us. Honestly, they are glad that there are people who actually speak the language that they need. Because if you come to the bank and you don't understand it, the bank themselves will struggle. If they have someone who does the consultation, who explains everything to them, it's easier for them. Because a banker, if you go to the bank and you talk to the banker gets paid by the Deutsche Bank or a Commerzbank. He gets paid by that company. And technically, we are the extended arm of the banks. So the same principle of how bankers are paid is how we are paid. Just that we are not only for the Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank, we're having different business partners. And that's why I was also providing this. So at least you have the opportunity. You might not talk to me. You might talk to one of my people here in the office, but probably I'm going to start the initial talk for anything. But that's the opportunity that we're giving to at least get some insights on how to move forward. Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's very good that you clarified the whole thing. So you know that your bank is going to take care of the bills. Just book a call with them, with the financial people, so that they can explain this thing properly. You know, usually when you go to the bank, the first thing they will tell you, oh, you need to bring a translator. You don't need a translator when you're speaking with Godfred Schutz. A lot of people have said that they want them to bring a translator. I also had that experience when I first came here. They tell me to go bring a translator, and for heaven's sake, it's more like an international bank, yeah, Deutsche Bank. But then it happens in most of these banks because they feel they don't want to leave the German language and start trying to explain to you in English or in your mother tongue. They don't have that time or patience, most of them. So you have someone who can break down most of this information for you. So my question will just be, I have one or two questions for you. I guess
Yes,
the
please.
questions in the chats were not much, but you said it depends when it comes to is buying a house in Germany a liability or assets. So I guess you explained that already, why it's a
No, I
liability.
did not explain it, but it's a good.
Okay, you
Oh
want to
wow,
explain
I
it
need to
now?
get my charger. But I can explain it a little bit now because it's actually a good point. The main thing people need to understand is the difference between liability and assets. And the person who used those terminologies, I like that because that means the person has looked into this topic a little bit, which is a liability is something you put money in or something you buy that takes money out of your pocket. Just needed to connect my charger, sorry. So, a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Okay? Meaning that, simple example, if you buy a phone, is it a liability or is it an asset?
We are losing
Can
you.
you done? So that's the presentation
Yes,
is done. Then I'll just use this one to
to round up.
exactly.
Okay.
That's why plan B is always good. Like last
Yeah.
week when we had the technical issue, at least now we are prepared.
And we are already rounding up. So it's just to answer a few questions that is on ground. So how
Exactly.
is taking money out of our pockets and paying for a mortgage or a property? How does it benefit us? As in, you were trying to
Basically,
explain that.
basically, when we are talking about liability or assets, the main thing you need to understand is, for example, I was talking about a phone. A phone can be a liability or an asset. If you are making money with your phone, it's an asset. If it's just taking money out of your, it's a liability. So with real estate, the question is, you can buy real estate to improve your worth. For example, if you buy a real estate to rent out, it's bringing money into your system. You can use a real estate that you're using to buy a house. You can use it to reduce your tax. Like
Okay.
I'm a big fan of using it as investment instead of leaving it in yourself because when you're old, you can still move into it. And that's why it depends. We need to see your personal situation and we need to see how it's going to benefit you. But in Germany, generally speaking, the biggest benefit you have in real estate is if you are renting it out. And if you plan it and strategize it ideally, it will be more of a benefit than more an asset than a liability. Because as said, house buying is not for everyone. You need to evaluate it to make sure if it's right or wrong. Let me give you an example. If you want a Ferrari, a lot of people say, oh, if I get a Ferrari for free, I'll be blessed. Yes, especially the guys, oh, Ferrari, rum, 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 rum. I can impress people. But if you buy a Ferrari, there are certain costs that comes with it. Maintenance, petrol or diesel, you buy more than enough. Insurance. And some people might get the car for free, but they might not be able to afford all those things. And then it becomes a liability. And therefore, it depends on your situation. But if you yourself own a house, it can be a blessing, it can be a curse. It depends how you use it and what strategy you're using to apply for it. I hope
Okay.
it's a bit clear.
Yes. So instead of buying a house for myself, for example, I should be thinking of buying apartments to rent out and use it to reduce my taxes. And maybe in the long run, I could move into it when I get older. Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe by
And you
then.
need to consider the fact that the person living in that apartment ideally will be even paying back the mortgage. So you're not having extra cost.
Okay, so that's, yeah, I understand that now. Well, I hope you also understand it, people who are listening to us. So another question is, does this information that you've given to us, does it apply to people who live in the African countries where there is no working pension at all. Because here in Germany, we have pension, but now with this information, definitely the money that you're thinking that you're going to get when you get older will actually be almost not useful, because we are seeing currently most old people picking bottles, and no one is planning to pick bottles in the next 30 years. So does this information, does it apply to people who are in the African country where there is no pension? What kind of investment should they be looking at?
Um, okay, and that's the money and business approach that we need to consider. So if we're talking about the fact that, okay, now you're in Africa and this pension scheme is not there, then I would say let's focus on the other two, which is capital as much as possible and real estate.
Income. Okay, real estate.
And another thing is, when I was talking about the pension scheme, I was talking about passive income coming in more and more. When I'm talking to business owners, I'm talking about build a business that will give you a certain amount of money every month. That means if you have built some capital, find a way to start a small business in Africa, something that will give you money every month, that will give you so-called cash flow. That means you are building your own type of pension scheme. You understand? So you have those elements. So although here we have the government-based one, it's fine. But if we are able, especially in Africa, when we know the right people, we can use it as a concept. Obviously, sometimes it's trouble because it's also a matter of trust in the people you have. But if you have a business, it's another income source. So the money you could put into pension, put that money aside, make that money work for you. And in Africa too, we have different things. Our treasure bills. That treasure bill system still works in most cases. But it's important to understand the concept behind it. Okay. And I would never, that's why I have those three pillars. I would never put all in one bucket. Please do not. Because if that one bucket breaks, you go to the river, fill it with water before you get back home,
It's
it's
empty.
empty. So very important. Never put everything in one bucket and find different income sources. But first build one income source before you build a second. Because if you say, oh, and I used to do that when I started, oh, I want to business consulting, financial consulting, engineering, I want to do everything. We only have one brain. And we
Okay.
tend to say that people can multitask. It's a joke. Nobody can multitask. If you want to, I know that they say women can multitask. I always say women are good in switching from one thing to another.
Switching.
And for you to understand that it's a switch, and this exercise, I'm going to do it quick because we can round up because time is fast spent, is, I don't know, can you count fast from 1 to 10?
Yeah.
Just do that, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. Now, A, B, C till J.
Oh. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J.
Okay. Now, try the following. Try A1, B2, C3, D4, and so on till J and 10.
We have a question. Do you want to answer that?
You see? But you see the problematic, and that is multitasking. So based on this, you need to switch between two things, and then it becomes a challenge. And I've only seen one person who's been able to do that exercise. I myself I cannot do it, although I've practiced many times. But that's why I say multitask doesn't work. So please forward to the next question. But I like the way you swerved it. Smart.
So we have a question. Said, don't you think mortgaging a property is better than paying 900 euros CALT meter?
It depends, because you also need to have the financial airbag. When you buy your own apartment, it's the smartest thing you can do. But you need to know that if it comes to repairing, renovation, those are costs you need to predict in advance because they will be your cost. You
Especially
understand?
if you've signed the contract.
For example. And that's why the biggest mistake a lot of people, they go to the bank and say, oh, I want to buy a house. And then they will tell, oh, you want to buy a house? No problem. Do this Bausparvertrag. How much? 200 euro. They are not going to sit down to calculate everything with you, to consider all elements. Because the first time, and that was my personal mistake, the first time I did a mortgage financing for a client, I was young and I thought, yeah, mortgage, as long as they pay the mortgage, everything's fine. They bought this mortgage, nice house, okay? And the thing is, we did not consider one element. When you buy a house, what is inside the house?
The accessories.
Are they inside when you buy a new house?
No,
It's empty.
it's empty.
That means you need to budget for everything inside the house, sofa, bed, and what. It's extra money. A lot of people say, oh, if I pay the mortgage, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, I'm blessed. You are not. Now you need to buy everything to make the house look nice.
Look like a house or a home.
Okay. Then in front of it, you have a garden. You might need to refresh it. You might need to do the street. Like there is more to it. So you need to consider all that. If you're buying an apartment alone, it's different a little bit, but there's different regulations and approaches on that one. So yes, it makes sense, but you need money to make money, and you need money to be able to afford a house. And just to that, let's say you want to buy a house worth 200,000. You need, I personally always say 20%, but you need to have minimum 10% cash to put it for the mortgage. That means if the mortgage is 200,000, you need to have a minimum of 20,000 available in order for you to be able to apply and get the mortgage.
Okay.
I hope the question was answered.
So are you saying it's better because she's asking, if the person is asking, he or she, if getting the mortgage is better, but now you said it depends. So.
It depends on your financial situation, your financial strength, on your status, on your age. Because if you are 55, you don't have that much time than if you are 30. And that's why I'm being careful with my statements. The earlier, the better. And your financial situation also plays a role. Your credit score plays a role. Your income plays a role. How long you've been working at a company plays a role. There are so many factors to consider. If I said yes or no, I'll do you this service. And that's why I said discovery call, analyzing the situation. How long have you been in Germany? Are you having permanent stay? No permanent stay? Are you actually planning on staying? Are you planning on going back? What's your background? Like, there's so many elements that play a role, if it makes sense or not.
Makes sense. Because there are so many, there's no one size fits all in the whole thing.
Exactly. If I give you my suit right now, it's probably not going to fit you.
No, I'm smaller, so it won't.
For example. Okay. So I can't give a generic answer, but it depends on your situation.
Okay. There was something you mentioned about the baby boom time. And now that there's a lot of precautions of less babies, do you think having babies helps the system? I know this is not a tax question, but it's
no, it's a good question. It's a good question. I just need to be careful about how I say it.
Okay.
Technically, yes, but getting babies is one thing. Educating babies is another thing. And the next thing is, because if you look at Ausländer, immigrants, they tend to have more than 1 or 2 babies. If you look at German people, most of them tend to have 1, maximum 2.
1, max 2.
Yeah. It's an overall thing. So if I say, oh yeah, it's good to have much babies, it depends with people, it depends on what stage. And that's why at the moment, the fact that people are migrating to Germany from Syria, from Ukraine, is actually beneficial to this current situation, because those people, when they stay here, they're going to start working.
They're working, yeah.
And without having babies, all of a sudden, you have more working people in this country.
Okay.
So the part of how many children to get, or if it makes sense or not, we personally, we can't influence it, because if you want to have 5 children, you have 5 children.
You go ahead.
I don't think somebody will say, let me have 5 children to help the pension system here in Germany. Then the wahala is great, because handling 5 children, honestly, those women, I respect them. It's not easy.
Of course, it's a lot of work at the back end.
And it's not like if you are raising children in Africa, 5 children,
it's different.
The whole community will be raising them all. Your child will go do some nonsense somewhere, they'll beat him there, bring him to you for you to beat him again. When I lived in Ghana, I was surprised the amount of aunties and uncles that were beating me. And I came from Germany.
Your experience when you were sent back home?
Come again?
Would you want to tell us a bit of your experience? Was it a positive experience, you going back home
Honestly,
or
when I was
here?
there, I did hate my parents for it. But now it's the best thing that could have happened to me. Let me just give you
So
a
this
bit.
this question, I saw it in one information group, and they were like, "Oh, I'll prefer my kids to remain here. For example, in Germany, I want to be with them all the while." And you will notice that some of the kids have this tendency to be so they are more like, because they grew up here and they were born here, they have this what's that word? They want to get what they want to get because the system here tells them you have rights, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you now take the child home, like you just mentioned, you will hate your parents for it. But in the long run, you understand the benefit of what it did for you, especially if they go home with you and then you learn your languages, you mix up with people. But better to hear from the horse's mouth because you had that
Mm-hmm.
experience. My experience is different. I
It
came from my
depends. It
country.
depends. I
Oh
know
no.
some people who went to Ghana, came back and were horrible more than before.
See?
The main thing is, honestly, it depends how we raise our children. And
Mm.
it's very difficult to tell. Let me give you my as an example, and this time I'm going to be transparent. We are among each other, among us Africans, among of people. When I was young, I was used to be a troublemaker. You know, when you're home and your parents are loud, they beat you unofficially and they're having you under control. When you go to school and all the teachers are so nice and they cannot even beat you, they cannot even shout at you. Do you think I'm scared of them? I'll do what I
No?
want. All they're gonna say is stop, stop. And I'll be like, okay. And then when I got to class four, my parents realized that the way I was causing trouble, I was gonna go to Hauptschule. So we used to
Mm.
go to Ghana regularly, like during Christmas and whatnot. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm gonna say it anyways. And then we were there for Christmas as usual, and there were two cities. So my parents were always going from one city to another, and they left me one city with my little brother. And oh yeah, we're going to the other city with my little brother and my sister was not there yet. And then 1 week, 2 weeks, I realized that my aunties and uncles were more strict.
Oh.
Nah, I need to clean. What do you mean I need to clean? I don't clean. Hey, Godfrey, you're gonna clean. What if my parents come back? And then also I got this call. Oh, hey Godfrey, plans have changed. We need to go to Germany. You've been at school for a while because I used to go at school while my parents were even there. So they made me enter the school system a little bit, but there was no beating, no nothing. And all of a sudden they were like, oh nah, so you just stay. So I was in day school the first term, and then afterwards I went to boarding school. And the reason I say it's the best thing that could happen to me is, personally speaking, when you go to school in Africa, you're going to school because you know that you need that education to get somewhere. If you're
Mm.
here in Germany, you're going to school to meet your friends. I'm not going to school. You understand? I'm going to school to go and chill. Nobody would think, oh, I need to work hard because I need this education to get out of this. You see people struggling. You see the value of education.
Okay.
And it's like the problem we have here is not that this place is bad, but it's like when you're having a spoiled child, a child who gets everything, are you going to be surprised that that child is not responsible when it's old?
No, it's what you invested in.
Germany provides a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we need to understand the German system to benefit our children the best way. We need to stop beating them and find a way to communicate with them because yes, they think they have rights. My son also thinks he has rights. But I can politically with words turn him to where he wants to be. And it's something we
Mm.
need to learn because you need to do what Romans do when you're Romans. You need to do with Africans what Africans do. The children are born in a new system. So we need to understand the system and know how to teach them within that system. But for me
Mm.
personally, it was the best thing because my stubbornness, if it was not for Africa, I don't know, maybe it would have changed. It would not. But for me personally, it made me versatile. I'm speaking four languages. I'm here. I can now consult German, English, African. I understand different cultures. For me personally, it was the best thing that could happen to me.
When you said African, what language are you talking about? Because we have so
I
many
okay,
languages.
good. I shouldn't have said African, but Ghanaian languages. I speak three Ghanaian
Ghanaian language.
languages. I
Okay.
speak three Ghanaian languages. I'm really good in adapting to different cultures because afterwards I also went to the UK. So it's like I've understood why people don't understand other people, but I understand why you cannot understand other people. Like if I'm talking to a German, like my team is versatile. If I'm talking to a German, I start thinking about where did they come from? What are their
Hmm.
value system? So the way to motivate someone who was grown here and the way to motivate someone in Africa is different. If
Hmm.
I have one partner here, he's overperforming, grew in Africa, went to university in Africa. The way I motivate her is very simple. Madam, do you want to become successful? Remember all the struggle you had before? Now is the time to make it happen. And you will know, pa, 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 pa. When I'm having those people who have grown here, I'll say, oh, you want to go on vacation every year, right?
Yeah, they love
That is
vacation here.
so important. If you don't do
Yes.
this, you're not good. It's different motivations,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to know what motivates whom. And it's the same
Mm-hmm.
with our children. But I said, my child is 8. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
100% already tell you how to teach her perfectly, but at the moment, from my perspective, it's working. But sometimes children are children.
Yeah, they want to be kids. Now, you mentioned, you already gave us some insight of this long-term investment as regards mortgage, renting, and all that, and you gave some differences. Can you quickly give us some examples of short-term investments that we can consider, especially for those who are already above 50, because they do not have that time anymore to start, you know,
Okay.
what,
If the
what
people are
examples?
old, if the people are old, okay, it's all about contingency plans in the sense that
Contingency.
what can I do right now to get the best out of it? You're not going to get the same benefit like someone who's 30. It's just we need to accept. But
Mm-hmm.
the biggest pain that people realize is they are 1 year to pension. Until that time, they were thinking that everything is good. And the painful part is more them being affected by it without knowing. I had one lady, she was like, oh, I'm going to get pension 100 euro, 1,000 euro. I was like, are you sure? Show it to me. And I looked at it, and in 6 months, she was about to enter the pension. And I said,
Hmm.
mom, 1,000 euro. I deducted everything and realized it was only 700.
That's after tax, you mean? Because the money you're seeing is not what you're getting. It's the same thing with your
Exactly.
payments or your salaries. When they tell you, oh, you're earning 5,000 euros, it's on the contract 5,000. But Germany takes, is it 49% out of your money? So what comes into your account is not 5,000,
It's shocking.
it's less.
It's
Most people
shocking.
still don't understand that fact.
And that's the same thing. And the thing is, the most painful part is she thought, okay, it's not enough, but she can balance. All of a sudden,
Hmm.
it's 300 or less.
Wow. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And one thing, there are also a lot of misbeliefs, misconceptions, in the sense that some people used to think that, oh, when I'm in pension and I don't have enough pension, the state will pay some of it, which is true. But what the state pays is the social kind of version, Arbeitslosengeld, minimum
Hmm.
wage. And when they give you minimum wage, you're not allowed to work. Because
Yeah.
if you work, they'll calculate it
You
against
keep
it.
the money back. Yes.
Exactly. And the moment you do that, people, oh yeah, I'm getting the, let me go back to Africa, I'll send the money there. No, if you're getting minimum wage, the state will be sending you letters every month. They want to make sure you're still around. If you're going back to Africa and you want to take the money with you, you can go to Africa, but you only get the pension that was decided for you. If it's 200, if it's 300, that's what you're going to get, but not the additional for you to survive.
I think this is what most Germans do when they travel to different countries in
You're
their
on
old
point.
age. So they are spending more of their pensions, and you're thinking, "Oh, he's making me feel good."
You understand? Like to move to Indonesia, it's cheap.
It's cheap
It's
to
cheap. So
move
if you
to
get only
some place.
500 euro pension, if you only get 500 euro pension in Indonesia,
It's
you are
even
good.
in another country. Yeah.
And that's the whole
Hmm.
point
And
because they'll give you the money.
yeah, yeah. So
So short
to
term, to your answer, short term is more, you need to adapt. You need to know, okay, now I have maybe 10 more years, 15 more years to my pension. What I do, one strategy I do with them, it always also differs, but one thing I always try to do is, okay, you have 15 years, find an apartment that you like of your choice, which is cheap. So you're mentally prepared for that situation. Okay.
okay.
Because if you are now in pension and all of a sudden they tell you, oh, your apartment was 1,000 euro. Now you are rent now. We need you to get a smaller apartment. You don't have a
Hmm.
lot of time to find a smaller apartment. You're going to take whatever you get. And that's
Okay.
horrible. And then short-term savings, short-term strategy also means that short-term strategy means you are not going to get a lot of interest on short-term because money needs time to grow. Okay.
Hmm.
So short-term will be things like how to budget your money. Maybe you're going to have one or two things that will give you 1, 2, 3% interest. But 1 to 3% interest, it doesn't sound like a lot, especially short term. Because if you have 1,000 euro, 1% interest is just 10 euro. So the short term is more about being able to see the value of what money to use and what money not to use. That's the main thing you need to consider if it comes to that. But it always depends, and it always depends what the people have or not. But there's no short-term investment that will double your money. If you hear that, please run away. Idea 419, run away. It's not gonna work.
Okay,
Quick
so
money
as
comes, quick money goes. Sorry.
no, it's good. As a financial advisor, what would you advise people who are thinking of starting a business? Like they want to do a business, but they don't even know what they want to do, what kind of business they want to do. How do you encourage such a person?
Okay, I'm gonna try and keep it simple. The main thing you need to understand if you want to start a business is you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one is the business I want to start. What value am I giving my clients or the community? People pay for value. They don't pay for ideas.
Mm,
Okay. Because people are paying a lot for iPhone because they see value in it. Okay.
mhm.
Just because you think there's value does not mean that everyone else thinks there's value. Talk to people. Find out what is the problem that you are solving. Because every entrepreneur is a problem solver.
So
Every solution an entrepreneur offers solves a certain problem. Financial consulting seems like a boring topic, but the moment I do this kind of presentation, people see that, hey, pension is a real problem. Godfred, help me to solve it. But it sounds like you don't know the problem till you know the problem, or till you meet
yeah,
someone who has that problem. So any entrepreneur, whatever you want to do, don't first think about the money that comes out. First think about the benefit you are giving the people. Because when the benefit is there, people will be willing to pay.
okay,
And
exactly.
that's why sit down, think about the problem you're solving. Think about, do I have the resources? Do I have the finances? Am I trustworthy enough? And do I have the right people to bring me where I want to be? Because business is also a lot about collaboration, insights, understanding the system. Yeah, that's the short version.
And to just give some fundamental information, understanding the system means you need to know what you need to do because starting a business in Germany is not so easy. There are
You need
so
to know the
many
tax
laws.
system.
Yes, so many laws that you need to look at. There's so many things, and you need people who are professionals in this field to explain these things in detail to you. Thank you so much, Godfred Schutz. Do you have a last word for people who are listening to you? What would you want to tell them?
The last word I want to tell people, yes, I put my details there. You don't need to come to me necessarily. The first thing you need to understand is you need to understand where your problem is, and you need to understand where you want to be. Because one question you always need to ask yourself is, what brought you here? What made you get to the point that you are in the last 5 years? Or what have you done to get where you are in the last 5 years? If you continue doing it for the next 5 years, are you going to make progress? Or are you going to stay where you are staying? Because if you continue doing what you've been doing, you continue to get what you've been getting.
Hmm.
I hope you understand. So if you want to make a difference, find someone who can give you insights in the things that are different. Because today, at least, you've been able to take some time to listen to this, to know of certain challenges that might come your way. By not doing anything, you're not helping yourself because you need to start at some point. And believe me, there's no time, even if you're 65, start. I hope it makes sense.
No time is too late.
No time is too late. Even if it's 1% better, enjoy your 1% better than 0% better.
And 0%. So before we round up, I just wanted to inform us about this opportunity that is on ground for people who want to learn African languages, especially those thinking about traveling, tourists, or your children learning different African languages. Take the opportunity to visit languageafrique.de and look out what language you're interested in or what you think would be beneficial to you. And don't forget, if you need financial advice or financial information, we have Godfred Schutz here, and you can always reach out to him for any questions that you may have. I want to thank every one of you who took out time to be part of this workshop or talk show, and for all of you who contributed with your questions. I thank you all. And I want to say, wishing you a wonderful weekend, a wonderful day, and I see you in the next edition of Let's Get to Know You. Thank you so much, and it's a
Thank
girl.
you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for giving us your time, Godfred. It was really insightful. I must really commend you for the work you're doing, because financial education is really, really important. People just make money, they don't even know how to make that money work for them. And at the end of the day, it's like you're just chasing, will I say chasing clout or just chasing money? And you keep working without even thinking about, okay, what's going to happen when I get older, you know?
That's it.
So this information was very, very insightful, and I really thank you for giving us that time, even though you have a busy schedule. And thank you for rescheduling this, because it was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, and
right.
You gave us the opportunity to still talk about this and clarify some of these issues. So thank you once again.
Thank you likewise. All right. Have a blessed day.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next edition of Let's Get to Know You. Bye for now.
Bye.